So that's how me and my husband met, okay? We met through his mom. I worked with his mom. Me and his mom were very good friends. We always talked about everything. She was like, I really think that you should meet my son. Mind you, you got to be mindful. My husband was still in high school. I was working. I was 21 with a child, with a 1-year-old. And my husband was not my husband yet. He was just my little boo thing, yeah. Anyway, he was still in school. I start by saying I did not expect to have 5 children living in a low budget hotel. Start by saying I did not expect to have 5 children living in a low budget hotel. I just want to clear the air to let people know that when people end up in a hotel, it's because of displacement. It's because of unfortunate circumstances sometimes. Mainly because of the way the government and the economy is, okay? That's the case for me. Let's get that clear. Let's get that out the way. And then secondly, all 5 of my children do not live in the hotel. One of my children lives with his active father that he's had in his life for a very long time. That's my firstborn. My eldest son lives with his father, okay? And just because I'm on the internet, you know, showing how it looks in a hotel, I'll let you know. I have 5 children. One is 16, one is 12, one is 9, one is 3. And then we have this baby. Yeah, she just turned 2024. So, you know, well, she just turned. Anyway, I see and notice a lot of people have a lot to say about how many children I have, my fertility, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you're not thinking of the problems that lie that put me in the situation to fucking begin with. I want to do a story time on how I even ended up in a hotel because it is a long story. It is very, very long. It's about 5 years long. Because to be honest, if it wasn't for the slumlords and the bad landlords that I've had to deal with and the mismanagement, a lot of this stuff would have been prevented. It could have been prevented because first 5 years ago, I was living in a public housing. I guess you could say Section 8 housing, but it wasn't on Section 8. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you know, they have public housing, Section 8 housing that you can pay full price for. So that's what I was actually. I didn't have a Section 8 voucher at the time. This neighbor did not like me. She was a booster and she stole my carpet cleaner, and then DSS got involved, and then they took my children for 6 months, and then I had to move to another place. And when I moved to Spartanburg, another city outside of the city I was staying in, then I ended up with another bad landlord because the last landlord, when I was living in the public housing 5 years ago, she was bumping bussies with the lady that was calling the police on me, calling DSS on me, and all of that bullshit. So I ended up with another shitty landlord. But I just want to say that when I was living in that area with that shitty landlord and that up neighbor who stole my carpet cleaner and called DSS on me and got my children taken away from me. Yes, I was living in a 4-bedroom. Okay, I had more than enough room, and I only had 3 children at the time. Okay, this is already getting too long, but if y'all want to hear a little bit more about my story time about how this stole my carpet cleaner and got DSS in my life and ended up taking my children for 6 months, then y'all follow me and comment and like and subscribe, whatever the you do. Click all my buttons.
I'm not gonna say she lying. I'm just always skeptical of anybody who, whenever they're retelling a story as far as things that went on in their life and how they were wronged or how their situation ended up how it is currently, how at no point do they ever put themselves at the center of the problem as far as her being a reason why she's in the situation. She jumped from it being the government, public assistance, the economy, a neighbor, her slumlord, landlord, at her first place she lived, and then she moved and she had another neighbor and another slumlord, landlord at the second place she lived. And it's like, okay, I'm not doubting that maybe you had people who you had conflict in your life, but what role did you play in it? What role did you play in all of these things that have been occurring in your life that led you to the point where now you're staying with 5 kids in a low budget motel? That's the part where you got to fill in the blanks because she's not being 100% honest, in my opinion. But then the question is, where the child's father's at, and why you continue to have kids when you didn't have the stability? Because she said that the 16-year-old is with the father, but what about the other ones? What about the 12-year-old and the 9-year-old? And she said that these issues with her living situation started 5 years ago, but you got a 3-year-old and you got a kid that is barely 1. And so you continuing to have children, even though you lack the actual financial stability and living environment that's going to be stable, and you kept having kids. And that's the problem with everything that she said, because she's trying to paint this narrative that nothing was her fault. But at least 4 out of those 5 kids, they're dependent on her. They're stuck with her as far as being a person who they have to depend on, and it's unfair to them. Listen, people do fall on hard times, but when you just keep on coming up with excuse after excuse in order to escape accountability, then you're going to continue to fall on those hard times because you can never get out your own way. Let's check out some of these comments. One commenter says, it's everybody else's fault. My thoughts exactly. 5 kids is too much if you're not rich. She responded back with, I'm rich in spirit. Okay, ma'am. Another commenter says, stable home with enough rooms and stable income first before you decide to have more. Resources are running dry as opposed to 15 years ago, where you might get lucky and able to be off your feet in no time. Now is not the time to be struggling with kids. And this is coming from someone whose parents did the same thing and still are doing it. The eldest child lives with his father, but the other kids are homeless. Where are their baby daddies? She responded back with, I have a husband, which makes this situation even wilder. You have a husband, and like I said, I know people go through it. People hit rough patches and they hit hard times, but continuing to have children and you guys didn't take the time to really consider the financial responsibilities that came along with continuing to have kids. You just had another one recently. That's wild. The one thing poor people know how to do extremely well that we've seen over and over and over and over again is make babies they can't afford. Why have more kids when you can't afford to take care of the first or second child instead of depending on welfare like it's a paycheck? Why didn't you try and make a life for yourself outside of the system? Do you not realize it's designed to keep you poor and dependent on the government? How did the government contribute to your displacement? All I heard was excuse after excuse. So the government is to blame on why you're living in a hotel. I hear you, but if you were already in low income based housing, why keep having kids? You said this started 5 years ago, and you have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. You have to take some accountability for your actions. The government has nothing to do with your situation. Did you say CPS took your kids and you kept having kids? You married, but do y'all work? What does one have to do with the other? You shouldn't be procreating if you're living off government assistance. You should work your way up to get out of it, become financially stable on your own, and then have more children. You relying on the government as part of the issue. Get on birth control so you don't keep having kids. Assistance is supposed to be a stepping stone, not a way of life. It also comes from poor decision making. Make a life for yourself before making a baby. One can be unexpected. 2, 3, 4, etc. When you lack a means to provide, it's just irresponsible behavior. No situation makes you busted open 5 times with no protection. Why do people act like protection costs thousands?
Okay, so in the beginning, I just want to talk about how I love my husband, okay? I do. I love my husband. He's been with me through and through it all. Now, mind you, hold on, y'all, I got to feed my... And yes, I feed my baby in the car outside of the hotel. Anyway, I love my husband. I want to start this story first and foremost, giving praises to the Most High for bringing my husband into my life, and start with my husband and the story about me and my husband. Okay, I was working as a CNA at Greenville Place Assisted Living. It's not called that anymore. I'm gonna cover this up. It's not called that anymore. But anyway, we met at a library. At the library at the place I was working at. And the only reason why we met is because I was working with his mom, and his mom was like, "Yeah, I think y'all would, be good together or whatever." And she was right. Okay, I love you, mama. So that's the reason why me and my husband. So that's how me and my husband met, okay? We met through his mom. I worked with his mom. Me and his mom were very good friends. We always talked about everything. She was like, I really think that you should meet my son. And I was like, okay, well, let's do the meet. So him and his brother pulled up in a blue-green Ford Escort to my job while I was reading a book, just chilling. I had some downtime, and I was in the library, and we met, and we've been clicking ever since, okay? Mind you, you got to be mindful. My husband was still in high school I was working. I was 21 with a child, with a 1-year-old, and my husband was not my husband yet. He was just my little boo thing. Yeah. Anyway, he was still in school. You know what I'm saying? And I was like talking to his mom, like, you really think we would click? I mean, he's still in school and everything like that. Like, he's in high school, okay? But anyway, we clicked, and then we got together, and when we ended up getting together, like, it was when he was about to turn 18, I was like, man, I feel like, I was telling him, like, I feel like you should go and, you know, what did they say? Soil your royal oats. I wanted him to get out there and see life and do things. I didn't want to hold him back because I was 21 with a child or whatever already. So, mind you, he was like, nah, I really want to be with you, this and the third. But mind you, we got together January 23rd, 1, 2, 3, January 23rd of 2011, and then we broke up like May 17th or something like that of 2011. Not on his mama birthday, but because that's his mama birthday. But it was around May, mid-May. I remember my homegirl was like, hey girl, come over so that we can hang out with some dudes or whatever. And I was like, nah, because I got a boyfriend. She was like, girl, bye. Y'all been on a break for like a month now. And I'm like, I know, but let me hit him up. So I hit him up and I was like, hey, what you want to do? It's been like 30 days. Like, what you want to do? You said you wanted a break, and this is the break. So like, what's going on? Do you want to be with me or not? And he was like, no, he didn't want to be with me. And we always got this little running joke, inside joke about him breaking up with me. For breaking up with me, and the way he broke up with me was crazy because he was just turning 18 and he didn't want to soil his royal oats. He really wanted to go out there and get on rugs. Okay, that's it. He broke up with me for rugs, and I say that to this day, to this very day. He always be like, well, when I try to get back with you, you never answer the phone for like 10 years. And that's because I had moved on with my mother life. Shit, what you mean? You broke up with me so that you could go out here and be 18 and do whatever the wanted to do. So shit, like, I went and moved on, and I ended up having 2 children after we had broke. I actually had 2 children, and I was engaged to the white man that I was with. And that's why I said this story is very long. It's very long, but I'm gonna put this in multiple parts so y'all know, y'all can just continue to follow me and like, repost, share, whatever.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say. Let me gather my thoughts. What kind of mother sets her son up with a woman who already has a child that's older than him? Wow. That's absolutely insane. Then he actually got away from her, but then a decade later, they get back together after she's already had more children by other men. So TikTok is weird because it's one of those places more than any other platform, Instagram, YouTube, where people, they share their entire lives so easily. They'll just turn on their phone and they'll start spilling their entire life story as far as the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, the insane. And they'll tell you everything. And what you end up having an opportunity to listen to are how people from different walks of life live and the choices that they make, and remove the color, because I've seen it across the board, black, white, whatever, doesn't matter. When it comes to people and the decisions that they make, it always seems to have to do with more their economic background as far as to why they're making these decisions that you see made where she got 5 kids. These are poor people decisions. These are decisions you see happening in impoverished communities where people continue to make more babies and more babies, even though they can't afford them. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it right there. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel for more. I appreciate when you guys take the time to tune in. And as always, until next time.